Welcome back to another episode of Where is the Money? So apparently President Donald Trump has been denied the ability to put tariffs on all countries, including those that are uninhabited, especially those with penguins.
We're following some very big breaking news tonight. News that will come as a big blow to Donald Trump and his agenda. Tonight, a 3-judge panel in New York has effectively balked almost all of Trump's disastrous tariffs. Trump's tariffs against Mexico and Canada, his tariffs against the EU, against China, his tariffs against uninhabited islands with nothing but penguins and snow. They are all blocked by this federal court decision. It comes out of the United States Court of International Trade, which is a specialized court you may or may not have ever heard of, but it deals specifically with trade issues. A 3-judge panel consisting of one Reagan appointee, one Obama appointee, and crucially and importantly, one Trump appointee, ruled unanimously that Trump's trade war is essentially illegal, that he does not have the authority to enact these sweeping tariffs on his own. When Trump signed the executive order enacting these tariffs, he cited something called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, a law that gives the president the authority to use tariffs in times of national emergency. And in their ruling tonight, the judges write, quote, "The question is whether the International Emergency Economic Powers Act delegates these powers to the president in the form of authority to impose unlimited tariffs on goods from nearly every country in the world. The court does not read the law to confer such unbounded authority and sets aside the challenged tariffs imposed thereunder. The law does not grant tariff authority to the president simply when he finds or determines that an unusual and extraordinary threat exists." I sense a little snark there. I appreciate it. But man, when you put it that way, it all kind of makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
So apparently a trade court has ruled against Donald Trump, saying his administration do not have unbound power to put blanket tariffs on all of these countries. What do you say?
Donald Trump's tariff plans took a big hit yesterday, Wednesday, when the United States International Court of Trade struck down his Liberation Day retaliatory tariffs. I want to talk to you a little bit about the judges. People always say, oh, those are just liberal judges, or they were appointed by Obama or Biden or whatever. So let's talk about who they are. One is Judge Gary Katzman. He was appointed by Obama in 2016. Another, Judge Timothy Reif, appointed in 2019 by Donald Trump. The third is Judge Jane Rastani. She was appointed in 1983 by President Reagan. She's been on the court for over 40 years and was the chief judge of the court for about 10 of those years. She took senior status about 10 years ago, meaning she just has a reduced caseload. The thing to remember about this court, though, is that it is a highly specialized court. These judges hear trade cases. They understand trade law better than the members of the Supreme Court or the Federal Circuit, where an initial appeal would go, and you can expect the Trump administration to appeal it. This was a decision on summary judgment, meaning that there are no material questions of fact. Everybody agreed on the facts. Juries decide what the facts are, and if no facts are in dispute, then a court can make a decision as a matter of law, because a jury is not needed to decide the facts, and juries don't decide what the law is. You can absolutely expect the Trump administration to appeal, but for now, this order is in effect. It was not stayed, as far as I can tell, for a pending appeal. So they would have to run to the Federal Circuit, which is one of the Federal Circuit Courts of Appeal. It just doesn't have a number in front of it. It's not the First Circuit, the Ninth Circuit, it's the Federal Circuit. And then from there, it could go to the United States Supreme Court. Either the Federal Circuit or the Supreme Court could put this order on hold pending arguments in front of either of those courts. Is that likely? I can't really say. But that's what's going to happen, is the courts will get that case when it's appealed by the Trump administration. Will it go to the Supreme Court? Probably. We shall see what happens. But keep in mind, these judges, these 3, come from 3 different presidents, 2 Republicans and a Democrat, and they are experts in this area.
Now, a lot of people, when he first started rolling out the tariffs like this, felt it was unheard of for a president to make these kind of decisions unilaterally. Now it's coming out that the courts agree, and as they said, he is most likely will appeal. and it'll end up at the Supreme Court. We know he has favor with the Supreme Court. For whatever reason, they tend to side with Donald Trump a lot of the time. So we'll see how that goes.
A few moments later.
This just in, a federal appeals court has just reinstated Donald Trump's tariffs after they were blocked by the U.S. Court of International Trade. This is kind of a typical thing that happens with the appeals process, where these decisions get stayed while these appeals play out. This is a temporary decision. We will see what happens. Let me fill you in on just a few other details. Here's the decision from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. You could see number 2 over here. The request for an immediate administrative stay is granted to the extent that the judgments and the permanent injunctions entered by the Court of International Trade in these cases are temporarily stayed until further notice, while this case considers the motions papers. This is basically that typical ping-ponging of the U.S. court system. A decision is made, an appeal is filed. Oftentimes the court stays the decision based on the appeal to allow the defendant to appeal the case. That's exactly what we're seeing here.
In a statement, they've had a pretty aggressive response to this, is one way to define it. But I think it's so important to untangle all of this, and you're the perfect expert to do that with. In a statement after the ruling, the White House said America's trade deficits constitute a national emergency, and that's up to the president to decide, not judges. I mean, essentially the court seemed to say the opposite, but what do you say to that?
No, that's right. And so there's a couple things here. Number one, fundamentally, the power to levy tariffs rests with Congress, right? And as you know, nowhere in IEEPA does it even mention the word tariffs. Now, the court in its decision didn't say that the president, whoever the president is, never can levy tariffs under IEEPA. But what the court is saying is the president does not have unbounded authority to levy these tariffs. And that's what this was. I mean, he just sort of woke up one day and decided that he was going to levy tariffs on Canada and China and Mexico and the worldwide tariffs.
We've already discussed some of this. They've already filed their notice of appeal. You said it could go to the Supreme Court. What's next? I mean, what should we be watching for in the next days and weeks here?
So I think you've kind of laid out some of them, which is, do they seek a stay of this court's decision? We'll watch for that. They have the ability to do that. If this court does not allow for a stay, then we'll have to watch to make sure that the Trump administration does not, as you pointed out, violate its order. And then I would be watching for how businesses react to this. I think that a lot of small businesses, mid-sized businesses, large businesses are all going to support this. And be absolutely thrilled with it and hope that it sticks.
Will the Supreme Court rule in his favor? Will us, the consumer, finally get lower prices so we can start spending so much money and save more? Put your comments below. Let's talk about it. This is Where is the Money? Talk to you soon.